The fragment looked worthless. It was smaller than Diana Brooke's palm, brown with edges, chipped along one edge and covered in a layer of dust. Yet, the moment she turned it over, she stopped breathing. There was writing on it, not a royal decree, not a name of a pharaoh, just a few hurried marks written on a broken piece of pottery. Diana was standing in the archaeological remains of ancient Athribis in Upper Egypt. Excavations have produced an astonishing collection of written pottery fragments known as artraca. She picked up her magnifying glass. What were you trying to tell someone? She whispered. The question sounded ridiculous. The writer had been dead for perhaps 2,000 years, but the fragment was still there. And somehow, so was the message. Diana had came to Athribis expecting history to be written in grandeur places, temples, statues, inscriptions, the things civilization deliberately built to survive them. Instead, she found herself standing beside heaps of broken pottery, thousands of pieces. Some were blank, others carried writing, drawing, lists, and numbers. And the more she learned, the stranger the discovery became. In 2026, archaeologists working in Athribis reported more than 43,000 inscribed pottery fragments recovered during excavations conducted since 2005. The fragments contain text lists, deliveries, short messages, school exercises, religious texts, and other records of ordinary activities. 43,000. Diana looked around. It suddenly felt less like an archaeological site and more like an ancient archive. Except nobody had built an archive. People had simply thrown their broken pottery away. That was what made the discovery so remarkable. Ancient Egyptians did use papyrus, but pottery fragment offered an inexpensive surface for short pieces of writing. Museums preserve ostraca containing accounts, inventions, and work records. One surviving Egyptian ostracon, for example, records of distribution of lamps and oil. Other contains a fragmentary list of goods and numbers. These were not necessary texts intended to impress future generations. They were practical, temporary, ordinary. And precisely because of that, they could reveal something monuments often could not. Diana returned to the fragments in her hand. She carefully photographed it, then enlarged the image on her tablet. One mark became two, two became a line became part of a notation. She compared it with reference material and began tracing the possibilities that it belonged to an everyday record rather than a ceremonial inscription. Her excitement grew. It wasn't a treasure, it was better. It was evidence of someone doing something ordinary. Someone had needed to record something, perhaps goods, perhaps delivery, perhaps an amount, perhaps a name. And once the task is finished, the piece has been discarded. Diana suddenly imagined the original writer, a person sitting somewhere in ancient Athribis, a red pen in hand, a small fragment of pottery on a table, a few quick strokes, then the finished note tossed aside. No monument, no statue, no expectation of immortality. Just a person trying to remember something. And that changed the way Diana looked at the entire excavation. The ancient world was no longer speaking only through its kings, it was speaking through shopping lists, accounts, school exercises, work records, short notes. The University of Tübingen's research at Athribis has been identified evidence of school exercises, including writing associated with students. Other ostraca contained drawing, including human figure, animal, plants, and objects. Our civilization had left behind its everyday life without realizing it was leaving anything behind. Diana placed the fragment carefully on the tray. Maybe history isn't only what people built to be remembered. She looked at the thousands of broken pieces around her. Maybe it's also what they throw away when they think nobody's watching. The pottery fragment had not revealed a lost kingdom, it had revealed something much smaller and somehow much more human. A person had once needed to write something down. That was all. But from that tiny need came a gateway into work, education, administration, belief, and ordinary life in ancient Egypt. Diana smiled. The fragment was still broken, still dusty, still ordinary, but it was no longer worthless. Sometimes the smallest pieces of history survive precisely because nobody thought they were important. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories inside ordinary things, stay with us for the next journey. And if you like the journey today, you may like to subscribe and hit the bell button because tomorrow I will have another story cooked for you.